this on the computer. So, and Andy, who has kindly offered to do a guest speech today, this should be done in 45 minutes, including questions. But if you do need to go before then, obviously that's fine. Andy has been a contact of mine for about 12 years. And it just goes to show that, just if you can make a connection with everybody that you meet and then find a creative way to stay in touch, people stay in your life, whether they do business with you or not. And, there's some people on here that have become great friends. Others people have become friends and business partners and customers and that kind of thing. So that's a way I kind of live to that almost. And now we're in this situation, it seems to be more and more apparent. It's very useful to have contacts and people to speak to and lean on and that kind of thing. So without further ado, if I can just introduce Andy very quickly. This guy has flown around the world teaching companies large and small about from anything from cold calling to how they manage the projects to managing pipelines. He'll tell you a bit about himself as well. He's obviously had to change a little bit himself because you can't fly around the world at the moment if you're a sales trainer or in any industry really. So Andy, if you just want to introduce yourself briefly and then we can get cracking right into giving the guys the good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a bit of a short background into me, then I'll hand back to Rob to kick off properly. My background is originally a professional buyer, so it's my job to beat up salespeople for a living. It was great fun. And then I fancied a change, and I thought I've seen what a lot of salespeople do wrong, a lot of business owners do wrong in the sales process. So let me take a job in sales. I managed from a very tough start and being hopeless to raise myself to the top salesperson in the country, having I kind of fell across a different way of selling, did very well. As I got promoted, I trained my team into doing that method. They did very well. And I thought I fancy doing that for myself. So 16 years ago, I chose to work for myself. I've now trained 140,000 people in 42 countries around the world, or used to do that up till coronavirus. And I specialize in helping people differentiate and stand out from the competition and win business, even if they're a higher price.
Okay, session over. No, cheers, Andy. And it's just a great story of how a career progresses and things like that. And something that I've really just following on social media more than our engagement. I think I've been on 2 or 3 of your courses over the years. Is I know little about you, but what I do know is that you could be sat as a sales director of a company in an office, being like most sales directors with a sales team and stuff. But you've chosen to almost work your business into a hobby. If that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I know you're into your photography, you love walking the beaches of the world, you love the restaurants and the bars and that kind of stuff. And the impression that you give, whether it's correct or not, is that you almost pick a place you fancy going and drum up some work there.
Absolutely. Yeah, if there's a rugby game on or a concert I want to go to, and I think I can get some work there, that I generally book it ahead of time and then find work to pay for the trip. So that's very much one of my strategies.
Happy days. Obviously we're in the. Has anyone found a new word for the current situation? Because I'm bored of it. We're in the current situation, and I think that we are all business owners or in a sales role of some kind on the call. So, Andy, is there anything that you've noticed that can really help us from this? What I see is a level playing field, whether you're the owner of a massive company or you're a micro home business owner. Is there anything that you've identified from the people you've been talking to that can help us out in terms of?
Yeah, I think, and I want to run through a couple of mistakes I think people are making in this market, and then a couple of tips on what we need to do differently. I want it to be applicable whether you are a full-time salesperson, whether you're a business owner with a team, whether you're a solopreneur, the business is yours, whether you're even in network marketing or something like that. I want it to be useful in all those scenarios, so I'll do that. I am quite lucky in that because I've built myself a fairly good name as a professional speaker. A lot of friends of mine are political economists, futurists, tap into what's known as a brain's trust of some very clever people around the world that can at least have some idea what's coming. And because I've got clients all over the world, including China, I'm talking to people that are perhaps a little bit ahead of us, finding out what they're doing, and I have a global perspective on things. that gives me perhaps a bit of an advantage that other people don't have to be able to help. So that's my main purpose. I've got a couple of things that I can probably kick off with, a couple of the biggest mistakes that I'm seeing, Rob, if that would help the people on the call. Perfect. So one of the biggest mistakes that I see is that people in this market are being extreme. They're being extreme. They're either one end of the scale or the other. One end of the scale is they're in fear, doubt, concerned. They're worried about what's going on. They'll be worried about income. You know, like my business, all the business I had for the rest of the year cancelled overnight, because obviously I'm normally on stages like this in Johannesburg, no face-to-face gatherings. Microsoft have cancelled all conferences till July next year. I think Facebook have cancelled everything till June 2021. I'm pretty much writing off the rest of this year for face-to-face conferences. I've managed to get, I've done a fair bit online anyway. I built a lot of video material for salespeople, etc., and small business owners in the past. So I was kind of going down that route. It's probably made me go down that route faster and with more urgency I would have done otherwise. But I'm lucky enough to be able to do that. And there are various examples of companies doing that. It's a very strange world at the minute. I saw this week that oil now is below zero. It's actually in minus figures. So if you've got storage capacity for oil in the US, they're paying you to take the oil off them, which is just the first time ever in history. I'm hearing Uber are now doing product deliveries. So because there aren't as many people taking Ubers or taxis, they're now delivering products. So not just Uber Eats, where they're taking meals, but actually now products, the retail deliveries they're getting involved with. So one of the challenges I see that kind of sitting in inaction and doing nothing is really dangerous. They're sitting there perhaps in a little bit of self-pity, a little bit of concern. My friend Paul McGee would call it hippo time. You know, they're going to wallow for a little bit, but we need to get out of that fairly quickly. That's one mistake that's going to hurt. Also, sitting there thinking that this is going to, we'll give it a month or two and this will go away or it'll be back to normal. Sitting there waiting for it to go back to normal will also be a problem. I don't think it'll ever be the same again. You know, there may not be dramatic differences, but I think things will be different on the other side of this because we're different people. I was saying before, Rob, that, you know, I'm doing my government sanctioned exercise. I'm going, look at the hill for me. It's a start of the Pennines between Manchester and Sheffield. So I'm going walking in the morning for my allotted timescale. I don't normally do that. I normally get in the office early to beat the traffic. And actually now, having had a walk every morning, I've actually thought, you know what, I want to do more of that. Maybe not to quite the same level when I'm allowed out, but I want to do more of that after this. People have actually, been home to have tea with the kids or put the kids to bed if they've got young kids and gone, actually, I want to make sure I do more of that. So I think the other side of this will be different because we'll be different people because of it. So I think sitting at home doing nothing and waiting for it to go away is a mistake. I think we could have, from the people I speak to, we could have waves of this. We could have lockdown, then a slow release. Then when numbers get bad again, back into some sort of lockdown. So I think if we prepare for kind of the worst eventuality, we're not going to be surprised. And if it's easier than that, we'll do well. So sitting there and waiting for it to be over is a bad strategy. It's about what can we do in, as my friends call it, the new normal. What can we do to do something about it? The other extreme of this is overselling. So selling like you're desperate, trying to do business because you may well need income in the business. You may well need income yourself and be panicking and pushed into a situation where you're massively discounting, pushed into a situation where you're just putting pressure on people to buy now, putting pressure on deals that were going to come in, but now there's a risk of losing them because you've been too pushy. There's a risk of losing them because you've been too over the top and too desperate to bring that in. That comes across at some level if we're not careful. So those kind of two extremes are definitely an issue. One of the other things that I'm seeing, one of the bigger challenges, is what I call building false pipeline. Now, these are words that traditionally use in sales. What I mean by that is any sales opportunity you have, any quotation you might be sending out, anybody asks you for pricing on something. In this sort of market, people will be more careful with their purchases. We're probably doing it personally. A lot of people will be going through their direct debits right now and looking, what do I need of that? I didn't realize I was still subscribed to that. Can I get rid of that? Save myself some money. If we have to buy something, we're thinking twice about it. We're thinking more carefully. Companies will be saying, actually, Rob, do we need to buy that right now? Can we hold on that? Is it essential? Can you manage without it? So a lot of, when I say building false pipeline, a lot of people might go, oh, Rob, I've had this idea. Can you give me a quote for? Stephen, I'm thinking of doing something. Can you give me a price for? And they're not really that serious. They're just interested in how much it would cost to do something. Now, if we can just give them a price off the top of our heads, maybe not so bad. But if we've got to go through some sort of formal proposal, a tender process, God forbid, or anything that involves a lot of our time, that's going to be a massive issue, because we'll waste loads of time doing that and not time on doing things and people that we could be doing business with or building business for future. So I think the false pipeline is a real issue. It's understanding who's serious. And that means really, one of my key things about this is think about what you're actually selling. So in this market, I think, and the market that's coming, you've got two sales to make. One sale is selling the concept. The second sale is selling yourself, your business, your product. So what do I mean by selling the concept? I mean, if somebody's thinking of hiring a speaker for an event, if they're thinking of having a new brand done, for example, they'll say to a graphic designer, thinking of having a new branding, can you give me prices? Can you give me example drawings? Can you give me some samples of what it might look like? If it's an exhibition stand designer, can you draw me up what you think it would look like and give me costings on 2 or 3 different things? They might go internally then to their bosses and go, okay, so here's the pricing we've got. Oh, it's a bit expensive. Do we really have to do that? Maybe we'll miss the exhibition this year and we'll do it next year. So you spent loads of time doing drawings, getting pricing, putting proposals together for somebody that wasn't convinced on the process, i.e., we're not convinced, we're not definitely sure we are going to this exhibition. We're not definitely sure we're having a speaker at this event. We're not definitely sure that we're going to get the cars leased. We just want to compare, what it would be compared if we buy the cars or we get second hand or we manage with their own cars and pay them allowance. But Rob, could you give me a price for 17 different cars with 3 different variations on each? And can I have them on my desk by Monday morning? That kind of stuff it just takes loads of time and kills people. So that's beware of people who say anything like, I'm thinking of doing, or I've had this idea. That already is going to tell you that it's going to suck your time. So in advance of that, what it's worth doing is a couple of quick tips is to think about giving them some sort of range of pricing. I said, well, no matter who you choose to use, I'd expect you to be paying between this and this. Or typically the projects we've worked on recently have been between price A and price B. Where do you think you sit between that? And try and tie them down. If they're thinking of something and they just want to go back to the bosses and say, hey, this is what we're thinking of and here's what it costs, then say, hey, well, here's a range of pricing. Go back and see what you think is possible, and then we can build a solution or we can work around something like that. So there's a way of actually you not doing all the work till they've come back that are a little more heavier qualified. So that means the problem with false pipelines is it feels like you're busy. You get excited because people want something. I've got an incoming phone call for the first time in ages with somebody wanting something. I've got incoming people who are interested. They actually might be just using you as a quote factory or quote fodder, as I often call it, and wasting your time. So the problem is that feels good to us because it feels like we're busy, feels like we're getting somewhere, we've got quotes out, feels like we're doing something. It's actually just a huge waste of everyone's time when we could be doing other stuff that's going to be more beneficial going forward. So I think for me, those are 2 of the big mistakes that I'd like to share with you initially. In terms of some tips, I guess a couple of things that I want to talk about here is right now, it's probably the best market for prospecting that I have ever seen. Certainly in the last 10 years, I've been in sales or involved with sales or on the other side as a buyer for nearly 30 years. This is the best market I've ever seen for prospecting because people are more willing to speak to you right now than ever before. People you've never been able to get through to on the phone, people that have said they were interested 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago have been like, oh, I'm not willing. Yeah, I'm kind of interested, but not right now. Actually, now's a really good time to get back in touch with them. Now, I'm a huge fan of cold calling, Rob, as you know. I built my business on cold calling years ago. I've made over 100,000 phone calls. I've knocked on 50,000, 60,000 doors. What I would say is now, start with your warm contacts first. So the warmest contacts are people you're doing business with. The next level down is people who've said they're interested, maybe done some quotations for, talked to, a few months ago, a couple of years ago, and didn't go anywhere. So do all of that before you get to any cold stuff. But even cold calling and cold outreach now is actually really good in this market. The key is start with empathy. So before we start any kind of pitch about the business or any message over social media saying, hey, I've got this really new thing, you want to come to a presentation or we've got this really new product, start with, Rob, how are you doing? How have you been affected in this market? How's the family? Are you okay? And actually having some empathy and concern for the other person is far better than we've got a special offer on, or I can do this, or we can help with that. It's very much a market where people are more willing to talk right now than ever before. Partly because they're stuck in their own homes. They're not talking to the people they'd normally talk to. They're not having interactions with people that they would normally be able to. So actually they're welcoming conversation. So if you've got people that would never have taken your phone call a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, now, particularly if you've got their mobile numbers or cell phone numbers for those people international, it's the best time to get hold of them. People are also, if you're in network marketing, I know you've got a couple of people on the call, people are more willing to look at other opportunities now than they ever would have in the past. They're stuck at home. Now's a great time to talk to them about home-based business. Now's a great time for them to be thinking, I'm on furlough, I'm not getting my full wage at the minute. Or I've been made redundant, I've been let go by the business, I'm struggling for money. Now's a really good time for them to be open to putting a business on the side. Or they're sat at home thinking, I'm on full wage because my company's paid me full wage, but I'm not getting any commission. I perhaps need to look at an additional source of income that's going to top this up. Or they're thinking, I'm sat at home, I quite like it at home. Is there a business that I can get into from home eventually that I can transfer into doing that will allow me to spend more time with the kids? Otherwise, they think they might get divorced. They're trying to divorce the partner, trying to divorce the kids. They want to move house. They're making some sort of decisions to move on. So actually for new opportunities, or people, that would also count for people that have stubbornly refused to consider a different supplier. Hey, I've used supplier A for 10 years and I'm really happy. Now's a really good time to approach them, particularly if their existing supplier is sat in that apathy, laziness, sat at home, or I'm not going to do much, or I'm not allowed to do much. Perhaps if I'm furloughed and can't talk to people, now's a really good time to talk to those people that have stubbornly refused to have conversations with you before. Now's a really good time to get in touch with them. So whatever kind of prospecting or outreach you're doing, social media, phone calls, anything like that, now's a really good time for that. And my second tip before I pass back to Rob and take any questions is the next action I'd recommend you all make, which helps with the false pipeline, is to make sure you're qualifying. So qualifying the sales opportunities going forward is really important, because I'm a big fan of trying to look for the upside. So it's not about being positive for being positive's sake. I call that positive pretending. Things are pretty bad, but I'll pretend they're okay. That's not a great strategy. I'd prefer to look at the reality of where we are and then find the best things in that will help. So as my sales process is known as standout selling, how do we differentiate from the competition, win more business, and do so even if we're a higher price? And part of that standing out piece is being able to qualify and ask better questions so that we know where we're up to and we're not wasting our time on building false pipeline. So I'm looking for people that are committed to doing something. So they're committed to a change, they're committed to give a car lease an example, they're definitely going to have a vehicle because their existing lease comes to an end in 3 months and they can't do without a car. So I know, well, I don't know if they're going to buy from me yet, but I know they're definitely having a vehicle. That's more interesting than, well, I just like some pricing to see if it's worth, getting a lease as opposed to having my own car. Again, we already start to hear those things and go, we need to qualify this much harder before we do any work. The nice salesperson, Mr. or Mrs. Nice, will struggle in this market that's coming because we're going to walk out of this situation straight into a global recession. So I think let's be real about that. There are advantages in recession, and people make good money in recessions, particularly if you're selling hand sanitizer or masks right now, you're doing very well. But this is about, so what does a recession mean? A recession means people look at and scrutinize purchases harder. Decisions also go up. So if you're dealing with businesses, the people who said, oh, Rob, we've dealt with you for 5 years. You've always looked after us. The relationship's been really good. I don't need to get any other prices. I'll just go with you. Those people are now going to go, my boss needs me to get 3 quotes. The people that used to be 3 quotes will go, in a big business, this decision now needs to go to procurement, and they will negotiate with you to make sure we're getting best value. The people that used to go to procurement and go, we need to go to tender on this. So they might be making the decisions that might have been made at a management level. Like a friend of mine has a promotional gifts business. They get on really well with the marketing manager. The marketing manager will give them orders. They'll get budget. They have no problem. Now it needs to go to the directors if it's above a certain spend, just to make sure that it's really essential right now. So qualifying, asking the right questions, understanding are they committed to doing something, and then selling you as secondary to that. So in other words, make sure they're convinced first on doing the action, buying the product, joining your business, and then selling why it needs to be you that they work with. That's really important in this market. And making sure we've got contacts. I generally say when we're looking for contacts, this is also useful for existing customers at 3 levels. So if you're selling to a company of more than one person, then if you're selling to a company with just one person, it's the one person you need to talk to. In a bigger organization, I say 3 contacts minimum. The person you normally deal with, the person above them, their boss, wants to know who you are, and the person below your normal contact. So that if your contact leaves, the person below them might well get promoted. That's kind of secured that business. So how many contacts have you got with your existing clients? How many contacts have you got with your prospects? The relationships that you build now will have massive benefits for you in 6, 12, 18 months' time. Because people that wouldn't normally talk to you will talk to you now, as I said before. So they might not be in the market to buy now, but talking to them now will mean they will take your call in 3 months, 6 months' time. They know who you are. You've been able to get some traction with them. You're now on the inside as an existing contact. And with that, it's also about thinking about your network. So who's on your support team? You know, you might not be able to talk to your partner or your family about your business. You might not have people close to you that you can talk to. Who's on your support team? Who can you tell people what's really going on? Who can help you? You know, a great thing right now is to get referrals in this market. How can you use your network and your existing customers to get more referrals? When was the last time you rang every one of your existing customers and asked them to refer you to somebody that they knew? You know, should be perhaps more common in network marketing, but often gets missed. It definitely is not common in the business and the sales world. I used to get referrals of people who said no to me in a cold call. I did a call this morning that Rob was on, and most of the people on there aren't getting referrals from their existing clients who are really happy with them. That's really scary. So it's a soft market. A nice person can turn up and get business just by being nice. A tougher market needs a bit more persuasion, needs a bit more justifying why I need to make this purchase and justifying why I need to spend it with you. Just means we have to work a little bit harder. Okay, so those are 2 big mistakes that I see or I'm seeing right now, and 2 of my kind of tips. Rob, I'll throw it back to you if you've got anything you want to say or bring in any questions.
I think that in 26 minutes was fantastic, Andy. Thank you. Absolute dynamite. And I think stuff we all know. We agreed. We know some of this stuff, and I think you've been able to just verbalize that for us to make into some notes and take back was really, really helpful. Guys, I'm gonna open up to any. Has anybody got any questions for Andy about your own business, about the big bad world out there, or what the weather's like in South Africa or anything like that? Tony, I'm going to unmute Tony.
Andy?
Yes.
He agreed to furlough with me, by the way.
Of course, my
Not
friend, of
necessarily
course.
a question, but just to me.
Pardon?
Someone else coming. Oh,
Big
Tony's gone
statement
quiet
to
now.
make. So what sort of evidence is there to say that will happen?
I missed the beginning bit of that, Tony. Please repeat.
You made a big statement about for the nice salespeople, they're a big shock because they're going to go into a worldwide recession. We hear media stuff and everything fake news. What evidence do you think is making you say that sort of thing?
I think probably selling through 3 recessions myself and what I'm seeing globally. So it's more my taking it, my anecdotal evidence more than, more than any, here's the statistics that back that up. What I generally see is in a soft market, people do business with people because they're nice people and they're friendly people. I don't mean that in this market they don't. What I mean is the people who get business by being nice don't do a lot of the stuff that they should do, the good sales practices, because they don't have to.
Right.
In an easy market, you don't need that marketing director contact instead of the marketing manager contact. You don't need to qualify people properly because they'll get, I said there was somebody on the call this morning where I said they're in an office furniture business. They've just dealt with you because they like you. They've never gone out for other prices because they trust you and they rely on you. Now the boss is saying, we need to get 3 prices on this. The boss has never met you. Let's take an example of you, Tony. The boss has never met you. They don't know you. They never heard of the business. Then one of the other 3 happens to be a name they've heard of. They've got 3 pieces of paper in front of them or 3 emails have been forwarded with proposals on. They're all pretty much the same. They'll go with the name they know. So it just means that that's not that the nice person is going to fail or that we should not be nice. It's just the fact that the nice person hasn't had to do a lot of the sales practices. So it's not necessarily they've got lazy. It's just the fact they probably got comfortable and this market will find them out. So they'll put all the effort in the process. And at the end, they won't get the business. And they'll go, how come we didn't get the business? We've done business for 10 years. Oh, sorry, my boss got another quote from XYZ and they went with them. So the danger is we almost go through the process without thinking that there could be other people. And we probably don't even ask about, are you talking to anyone else? Is there other competition here? What price have you had in? The kind of things we should be doing in a sales process. We take it for granted and we get caught out at the end. And that for me really hurts as a salesperson because we put all the effort in. We probably deserve the business, but we lose it. And people say, oh, it wasn't my fault. We didn't do the things we probably should have done in the sales process to win it. That's where I mean you put all the effort in and don't get the reward.
Is this where you mean where you get your consciousness and your unconscious, that the comfortable thing?
Yeah.
So really, I think really what we've got to do, I'm taking this, is revisit what we learned some years ago about
what made you successful is probably not what you do now, which is why I love all these interviews with business people who say, oh, what made you successful? What they did now is not what you do now. I made my business successful in my training business and my office supplies print background by doing high volume cold calling. Although that's probably a good thing in this market, I wouldn't start a business today doing that because social media wasn't around when I started the business. So, the market was different a month ago to it is now. The market was different 6 months ago to it is now. I'm giving different sales advice to what I would have done 5 or 10 years ago. It's definitely different than it was 10 or 20 years ago. So it's about trying to understand what's going to work in this market. So revisiting some of those good practices and updating some of what's changed. A quick example on that, because it's important for Tony's question. If you were in mobile phone sales 10 years ago, your job was to get a deal on the day. So your best idea was to get the last appointment of all the salespeople that they were seeing. And you could ask them what other prices you'd have, undercut them a little bit and get the business. That was mobile phone salespeople. Now, I'm teaching people to do the opposite because there's no good getting the last appointment of the day because a managing director or the director of a big company is not going to see 10 mobile phone salespeople all presenting similar packages. They're going to go to one of their colleagues, maybe the office manager, somebody more junior, and say, go out and get some prices for me. We don't even need to see the salespeople. Get them to send the prices over on email and I'll take a look at them. So even if you could get an appointment, you're not going to meet with the person who can decide. you're going to meet with the people that I call the quote collectors, who they'll see all the salespeople, they collect the quotes, they'll give probably the best 3 to the boss, and the boss will go, I like the look of that logo, or that sounds okay, or they're based around the corner, or some other random decision because he doesn't know how else, or she doesn't know how else to make it, and I'll go with that. So it's about updating your advice, going back to tried and tested stuff that worked, but updating it for today's market. Those are kind of 2 things I would look at, Sam.
Thank you very much.
Andy, Mark D'Souza
Mark,
here. Hi.
good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Long time no see. Just a point you made right at the end, which I thought was sort of really interesting, and that's about contacting existing customers, asking for referrals. And recently, you know, we've done that, contacted a few customers. So, for example, a friend who's been a family friend for best part of 15 years now, been a customer for 9 or 10 years, and takes all the services, and was regularly sort of referring us, but nobody'd make a decision to go ahead with the services. And it's understanding, educating them how to refer us better.
Yes. And also for the people that you're talking to, so you referred to them, you had a conversation, but the in-person didn't go ahead, or the referral didn't go ahead. Mark, just clarify for me.
So basically, I asked him the question. I said, how easy do you find it to refer me and our services? And he said, oh, you know, very easy, Mark. I know you, sort of trusted, personable. And his judgment was, I could trust you with my mum, and that's good enough for me. So he had spoken to other colleagues and friends, etc. But he just said, oh, you need to touch base with Mark or listen to Mark. But it's actually taking that education of the referral to the next level. In, you know, you need to speak to Mark, either us get the phone number off them so we can touch base with them once he's warmed them up by saying, expect a phone call from Mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which
That's that final bit of the referral piece. Is you're right, is getting ideally an introduction, possibly an email between 3 of you to share details, something that gives you permission to get in touch. That was the first thing. I mean, for me in your business right now, it's an ideal time because you're like, hey, you know, utility bills are getting higher than ever. Who do you know that actually like to save a little bit of money on the utility bills? So in terms of getting direct customers, we should be falling over referrals right now. Anything that saves people money or can replace what they do for a lower cost is something that we really should be proactively going out hugely on, because we should be falling over interested people. You know, if you sold home gym equipment, the amount of people that are going to walk out of this like me and just go, I pay a fortune for the gym, I'm away most of the year, I don't go enough to justify what I pay. Actually, I can get really good kit in my spare room that nobody stays because I'm not home very much. I might as well have home gym equipment. If you sell home gym equipment, there's going to be a boom market after this. If you're an office furniture business that's cleverly, you know, they've adapted and put a work from home package together, I think people will be working from home for a fair while, and being perched on a dining room table or the corner of it, or in or, you know, trying to manage with the furniture they have is, or with the kind of background of wallpaper that Rob's got, is not ideal for business purposes if it's going to be long term. So therefore, nobody had ever produced a work from home package, but I've got clients that are selling them 10, 15, 20 quantity at a time to a company that's now got to have the staff working from home. And the staff themselves have been told, you know, Rob, you cannot do your work from home. You have to be in the office from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m., 5 days a week. Have now gone, well, I've proved that my job can be done from home because I've just been doing it for 3 months. So now I want to work from home on a Monday or a Friday. I want to look for a job where I can be based at home and have more time instead of spending hours getting into the office. So I think there's definitely going to be some changes. And on the referral point, you're right, Mark. It's just getting that end piece to get them to make the introduction, that then you're allowed to make the approach and it's welcomed and expected.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, thanks very much, Andy. Has anybody else got anything to add or comment or ask Andy? You can just unmute yourselves with your space bar. Everyone all right?
I've got nothing to ask, sorry, but I've got a lot to take away. So thank you very much, Andy.
Perfect. Thank you, Stephen. Glad you enjoyed it.
Fab. Sony, thumbs up. Okay, fantastic. Thumbs up, everybody. Listen, I don't want to take up any more of your time. We did that in just over half an hour. So this will go on as a podcast and a YouTube video at some point later on. Unless if you want to message me with anything that you don't want on there, please let me know. Andy, thank you for your time. Hello?
Can you say something to Chris Boodman?
Yeah.
Tommy Cooper. Chris, are you listening?
I'm listening, Tony.
Yeah. More jokes for you when I see you.
I can't wait. As long as you're wearing a comedy tie as well, Tony, then that's the only way I'll come.
Yeah, that's the way I'm going to do it anyway.
That's funny. That you guys must go back a decade from that old B&I group, eh?
Oh, all right, we're getting on a bit. We're getting on a bit.
No, fantastic. And Chris has just started his own business during this, so fair play, pal. Fair play.
Yeah.
Right, I'm gonna wrap up there. Let everybody get on with their afternoon. Go and enjoy the sun. I appreciate everybody's coming onto the call. There's going to be more stuff happening through that little Nudge Business Facebook page, so please keep an eye out. Andy, just really appreciate your time. Good luck with everything you're endeavouring to do with the changes to your business and the value you're offering to your clients globally. And,
thank you, my friend. And on that note, actually, for the people on the call,
yep.
I'm putting some videos together on the mistakes people are making. If you want to get access to those with my compliments, get me through the website at andypreston.com or search Andy Preston Sales on LinkedIn. Drop me a message there, andypreston.com or search Andy Preston Sales for LinkedIn. Drop me a message and I'll get you an invite to all of those videos so you can be clued up and not do stuff in this market that's going to cost you business.
Fantastic, Andy. Thank you ever so much. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rob.
Cheers,
Thanks,
everyone.
Andy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.